I was deeply moved by the choir's rendition of For Our High Ground Is Right Over There. I sat and listened, feeling my heart pounding with emotion. All the professional tenors, altos, and sopranos in the choir are Atomy members. It's our own members who made it happen. In just 2 short weeks, they wrote new lyrics and composed the music. And it wasn't a solo act. They practiced together and sang in perfect harmony. I believe Atomy now stands on par with the best in the world when it comes to entertainment. The song truly resonated with me. Yoon Sung Lee's poem reads, "There are countrymen who must proceed, though fallen and broken, if at all a piece of heart intact stayed." Our story has been woven into the poem. The motto, either do it thoroughly or desperately, has been incorporated into the lyrics. You need to know the sentence accurately. Either do it thoroughly or desperately. If you conduct your Atomy business thoroughly, you don't need to do it desperately. Some might interpret it as meaning everyone has to work desperately, but that's not the case. If you're thorough, you'll be successful. Being thorough means being as diligent as a civil servant. Work as diligently as a civil servant. How many hours a day do civil servants work? 8 hours. Spend 8 hours a day working on Atomy. You can't expect to be successful by simply showing up at the center at 10 or 11 in the morning, having lunch, hanging out, and leaving at 3 or 4 in the afternoon, making just a few phone calls a day. That's not going to work. At the very least, you need to be thorough. Regardless of your abilities, success is unattainable without thoroughness. That's why being thorough is essential. How many hours a day do you need to work thoroughly? You need to work at least 8 hours a day. If you're not doing that, you should reflect on your approach. But here's the thing. Some individuals don't achieve success even when they work thoroughly for 8 hours a day. So what do you do then? Do it desperately. That's how you'll find success in Atomy. I found that simply being thorough wasn't effective for me. So doing it desperately is my style. I don't sleep at night. I work day and night, doing everything in my power to get it done. So whether you're thorough or desperate, anyone can find success at Atomy as long as they adopt one of these approaches. Atomy is a distribution company. There's only one way a distribution company can be successful. If you sell a good product at a low price, will you do well? You're bound to do well. When essential items are both affordable and of high quality, there's no need to sell them aggressively. You don't need to go around begging people to buy them. You don't have to be afraid to sell. Just go to people and tell them. Just let them know it's cheap and of good quality. Of course, just because you talk about it doesn't mean that everyone is going to welcome it and use it. Go back and tell them again later. If you haven't talked about it 10 times, you haven't really talked about it at all. I took these words to heart when I was first learning about sales. No matter who you approach, you need to tell them 10 times for it to be considered once. Imagine, someone suddenly introduces you to a brand of cosmetics called Atomy that you've never heard of and tells you to try it out. You've never heard of it. Would you simply say, "Oh gee, thanks," and start using it? No, you wouldn't. If you've never heard of Hemohim before, and someone suddenly tells you to start taking it, would you simply say, "Okay," and begin using it? Probably not. You introduce it, and they're likely to look it up, examine the data, and vet it. That's what you are doing right now. You mention it once, then return and repeat the process again and again until you said it about 10 times. Only then can you say you've said it once. And then you start over. You keep telling them over and over. When do you stop? Until one of you dies. That's what risking your life is all about. Keep pitching. People who struggle with sales often wonder, what should I say? Or how will the other person react? But what do the pros do? They simply put it out there. They say, hey, I've got this new product, it's really affordable, it's fantastic, you should give it a try, and they just put it out there. And they don't dwell on it. They move on and pitch it to someone else. So who's going to ponder it? It's up to the person who hears it to decide whether they want to buy it or not. But what does a novice do? They spend all night agonizing over it. What should I say? How will they react? You spend the whole night worrying about it, and then you wake up in the morning thinking sales is just too difficult. Why call it difficult when you haven't taken action yet? All you've done is think and you're already saying it's hard? On the contrary, what does a pro do? They simply go out and tell people that there's something affordable and excellent that can help you earn 100 million won a month. Just throw it out there. When you're asked questions, simply say, I'm not sure. I've only heard about it once myself, so I don't know it very well. Let's go listen to it together and bring them to the seminar. If you keep doing this consistently, one day they might attend the seminar out of boredom. Did anyone come here today just because they were bored? There might be some folks who came to the seminar today simply because they wanted to listen to music on a cold day and didn't have anywhere else to go. And among them, occasionally some individuals get inspired and go on to become royal masters and crown masters. So your job is to offer advice regardless of whether it's the right time or not. Just pitch it. Let the person who hears it do the thinking. All you have to do is put it out there. I was a novice in sales once. I was a salaried worker for 17 years. There was a period when I felt awkward and uncomfortable carrying items around and trying to sell them. It wasn't difficult, but it wasn't something I was accustomed to. That's when I set myself a goal. Even as a beginner, I committed to meeting 10 people a day and ensuring I explained the product to each one. It didn't matter whether they made a purchase or not, but I made a promise to myself that I wouldn't return home without speaking to 10 people a day about what I was selling. One day, I met with 9 people, and it was 10 o'clock at night. I still needed to meet the last person before I could go home, but I had nowhere else to go. So, I went to talk to one of my best friends, and I went to his apartment. But this friend's got a temper. He tends to criticize you for anything and everything. So, I was afraid he might scold me for bringing it up. I arrived at his apartment, but I lacked the courage to call him. So, I found myself sitting on the swings in the playground at his apartment, thinking I don't want to listen to his criticism again. But since I vowed not to go home, I'll just spend the night here. But it was November, and the air was cold and frosty. My shoulders were aching badly. So I reasoned that it would be better to talk to him and then head home to sleep in my warm room. I picked up my phone and called him. He came out and sat down next to me. We chatted for about half an hour about this and that, but none of it was the kind of conversation you'd typically have in the middle of the night. I don't even recall what we talked about. I just said whatever came to mind. So my friend asked me why I had called him. I told him I had started a cosmetics business. He said, "What? Is it a network marketing company?" I said, "Yes." I couldn't say anything else. I was afraid he would start criticizing me again, so I just replied timidly, "Yes." But to my surprise, he responded, "Yeah, I heard it's the next big thing, that it's got a future." How did you get into this? That's amazing. What do you need me to do? I said, you could buy a box and give it to your wife. I'll test it out and let you know if the product's any good. So I sold it to my friend with a short temper that night. And I realized something. I realized that everything, whether they buy it or don't buy it, is ultimately up to them. Since then, when I tell others, I never think twice about it. Whatever I say, it's entirely up to me. Whether they choose to buy it or not, it's entirely up to them. Once I grasped this principle of up to you, I felt liberated. It became effortless for me. Once I had someone's attention, I would pitch it right away. If you understand this principle of up to you, you too can become a master salesperson. This business is straightforward and easy. But even the simplest things can be challenging if they're unfamiliar to you. There's only one way to overcome that. You just do it. Then you'll grow used to it. So, the first step isn't anything extraordinary. The first thing you need to do is visualize the kind of successful person you want to become. If the dream you have in your mind sounds crazy, ridiculous, or insane to other people, consider it the right answer. You know you're on the right track. Why do you need to set a vision? It's so you can lose your mind. Your vision has to make you think, wow, if I can actually make this happen, I'm going to lose my mind. What would it feel like to have 100 million won coming in every month? You spent 30 million won last month and have 70 million won left. Another 100 million comes in, making it 170 million in your bank account. The following month, you spend 30 million won again, which you thought was a lot, but then another 100 million comes in. Wouldn't that drive you crazy? You have to set a dream that will drive you crazy. Do you know the number one reason people don't get rich? It's because they don't think about becoming rich. If you have elderly parents, should you give them an allowance? Should you cover their living expenses? Can you? Consider yourself a filial child if you only give your elderly parents a 300,000 won envelope once or twice a year for the holidays? After all their hard work. If you want to be a decent human being, you should give them 3 million or 5 million won a month and tell them, Mom, Dad, why don't you treat everyone at the Senior Citizen Center to a meal? If the child succeeds and gives their parents 3 million or 5 million won each month, it will lift their parents' spirits, straightening their stooped shoulders. You shouldn't just give them 300,000 won a year. Do wealthy people cover their parents' living expenses? Absolutely! But to provide them with 3 million won a month, you need to earn 30 million won. Supporting your children's education and marriage often leaves you financially strained. You need to have at least 30 million won a month to maintain a decent standard of living. And if you want to help your relatives in need, you should earn about 50 million won per month. If you aim to build a school for kids in Tanzania, you'll need to earn 100 million won each month. Towards the end of the year, one of our members traveled to Tanzania. Royal Master Juyung Park attended seminary in the US. He visited Tanzania because his friends from seminary were there. And he shared his experiences with me. They were building schools in Tanzania. They had managed to buy around 20 plots of land and lay bricks. The villagers had done that work. They just needed to add roofs to turn them into schools, but they were stuck because they were short on funds. They absolutely need a roof, right? I asked how much do they need. He said 550 million won. Got it. I'll chip in from my paycheck. I paid directly from my paycheck account. I get paid a pretty decent salary. I'm sending 50 million won monthly to Compassion. I'm supporting 1,000 children, sending 50,000 won for each. With 50,000 won, a child can go a month without hunger. Just with that, they can have a full meal, learn to read, and learn the Bible. I'm not sure what else to do with my money that would feel as meaningful, so I committed to helping 1,000 children. 50 million won is automatically withdrawn from my bank account each month. I mean, I won't be taking this money with me when I die. I have a prayer. I want to leave this world with empty hands. And I hope I've given it all away before then, and I hope I go light and empty-handed. If I go to heaven with what I have here, it's worthless. It's trash there. They won't want any of it. So I just want to give it all away before I go. Why am I talking about this? I'm supposed to be talking about making money, but here I am talking about spending it. If you want to be rich, you have to dream big. You need a dream that makes your heart beat. If I give 50,000 won, a child won't go hungry for a month. Imagine a child on the verge of death from malnutrition, and you have the ability to save them. That's the kind of thing that should make you feel alive. Think about working harder to help 10 people and 100 people, and then turn those dreams into reality. Since it might seem like a far-fetched goal at the moment, start by easing your spouse's worries and ensuring your children can pursue their dreams. You also want to help your relatives. To live a decent life, you'll need to make about 50 million won each month. And to help children in Africa, you'll have to earn around 100 million won monthly. To do that, you must strive to become an imperial master with all your might. Don't be afraid to give up sleep if it means reaching the level of an imperial master. You need to have a goal that drives you crazy. Some people claim they can't accomplish something because it's too difficult. If you want to do something thoroughly, you need to dream big. But if your dreams are as small as a fist, what will happen when you run into an obstacle the size of a fist? You're going to be stopped by the obstacle. If your dreams are fist-sized and you encounter a fist-sized obstacle, can you overcome it? You can't. Many get disheartened and end up failing because they find challenges too daunting. Everyone faces challenges and difficulties. But those who overcome them are the ones with big dreams. Having a big dream wheel makes it easier to roll over fist-sized obstacles. That's why you have to dream really big. When we take on a challenge, we're confronting something that is not 100% possible. Picture yourself trapped in a dark cave, with only a tiny dime-sized light shining at the entrance. If you're thinking, how am I going to squeeze through that tiny opening when I'm this size? You're a fool. What should you do? Even if it's 90% or 99% impossible, you have to move towards that light. You might stumble and hurt yourself along the way, but you have to keep going, even if all you have left is a piece of your heart. As you keep moving forward, the light at the cave's entrance will gradually grow bigger and bigger until one day you emerge into the bright daylight. When I founded Atomy, I was in complete darkness. I was living in a rented room that cost 500,000 won per month. I was driving around in a used van that cost me 2.8 million won. After a few months of selling some products, I made 3 million won, and someone offered to sell me a car for the same amount. But if I bought the car for 3 million won, I wouldn't have enough left to cover highway tolls and gas. So I had to knock off 200,000. It took me 4 or 5 hours to bring that price down. I was so persistent that the seller said, I bought the car for 2.8 million won. Is asking for 3 million won a lot? I bought the car for 2.8 million won, and if I sell it for the same price, what am I going to live on? I grabbed him again and said, but please just listen to me. He was like, just go away. Then we talked for another hour. That's how desperate I was. So I bought the car and headed to Iksan. I was dirt poor with no hope in sight. I feel sorry for myself, but I also feel sorry for those of you here. Let's tackle this together. Let's approach it with hope. When there's no hope, the only hope left is to hope. When there's no hope, what else is there to do but hope? Let's say it together. When there's no hope, the only hope left is to hope. Now that you've encountered Atomy, you have to work thoroughly. How many hours a day is thorough? 8 hours. A solid 8 hours of work. 8 hours. If you do it thoroughly, you will achieve success. If you can't do it, then at the very least, do it with desperation. If you are not good at explaining, at least go to the center and help with the cleanup. If you can't go out on your own, ask your partner or sponsor, hey, mind if I tag along? I'll help carry your stuff. And follow them around. You might shadow them for years and still not become adept at talking, but keep following them nonetheless. That's how you work with desperation. Do you understand? No matter how skilled they are, it's always better to have a partner or sponsor accompany them, even if they're just half smarter than to go alone. So, just say, I'll come with you and tag along, and success will come eventually. If your sponsor recruited a new member, are they going to enroll that new person under someone who always tags along or under someone else? Surely they'd want to enroll them under someone more skilled. But seeing as you're always tagging along, they might feel like giving you a chance. This is how you work desperately. By doing so, you might stumble upon good opportunities. If you are hopeful, humble, and consistent, you will succeed.